The information presented is for informational purposes only. The opinions expressed are not necessarily the opinions of any Daikin company. This information should not be confused for accounting, legal, medical, or other professional advice. Please seek advice from a qualified professional for any specific questions.
Welcome to the Accelerated HVAC Success program. My name is Ben Middleton. I'm the National Sales Training Manager for the Goodman, Amana, and Daikin brands. Today, we're joined here with Jan Spence. Jan, thank you so much for joining us.
It is my pleasure. Glad to be here.
So the first question I ask everybody that comes on the show, how in the world did you get involved in the HVAC industry?
Totally by accident, which I think most of our dealers and contractors would say that maybe their father or their grandfather, or they just started a side job, or all of a sudden they found out they're in this crazy world that is not going away. That's the good thing. We will need heating and cooling for a long, long time.
So, you started out your career in sales very early on. I've read your bio at many events that you've done and you've come and done for us. But you started out, selling donuts, I think it was?
Yes. So I got hooked on sales when I was 10 years old. So I remember my mother, we had to sell donuts to go to our summer youth camp. So she sat me down at the kitchen table. She wrote on a notepad all the rich people in our church, and that's who I needed to call. And so I started calling and saying, hey, we're selling donuts for summer camp. Would you like to buy a box? And so I'd get yes, no, yes, 2 boxes. So my mom came in and she said, Jan, why don't you try this differently? Rather than asking them if they would like to buy a box, ask them how many boxes they would like. And so just by changing the way that I asked that question, the answers started becoming 2, 1, 3, 4, no. And so I was really hooked on just that adrenaline, that the way that we can use our words, the way that we can ask questions differently will actually change the results that we get from our prospects that we're talking to. So I was hooked on it from age 10. I was ready to pursue this profession and knew that it was very, very powerful.
And so from then, you went on to selling vacuum cleaners.
Yes.
Then you went and started your own franchise.
Yes.
And then actually started doing a lot of training for other franchisees as you continued to grow that up. And today you're actually an international speaker. You go around all over the place working with some of the Fortune 500 companies out there. Tell me a little bit about just some of the trends that are going on in sales in general today.
Well, I think the biggest thing is that consumers are different. So whereas back in the day, I was just talking with a contractor the other day, and we said, remember when everyone named their company, AAA, heating and cooling, because you wanted to be the first in the yellow pages. And for all of my lovely Gen Z and Alphas, we love you out there, but you're going to have to Google what yellow pages are. But it's changed. And so the way that we approach them has changed, the way that dealers connect. There's much more technology now. So when you arrive at the house, before you used to look up in the yellow pages, you would call several contractors to come give you an estimate, tell you what was wrong with your system, see what the price would be to replace it, just kind of everyday situation. But now consumers can go online. You have some personality types that have a PhD in heating and cooling before you even show up to the house. So they're much more educated, and it's a little bit different because they've got access to the internet and they're multitasking. They're looking on their phone. They're checking Google reviews. So things that weren't happening before in the HVAC industry are very present now. So it's had to change the way that dealers and contractors actually sell and show up to the homeowner.
So because people have so much access to information, they're a lot more educated as consumers. And they also just the patience that they have for somebody coming into their home is a little bit different, right? Has that shifted?
Absolutely. So before, you would call the company and they'd say, okay, we're going to have Juan will be there, next Tuesday between midnight and 10 p.m. and you had to wait, and that was your only source of information. Now they expect to know who's coming over, what time will they be there, what does Juan look like? Is he going to show up in a logoed truck? Will he have on a uniform? Is it going to make my house dirty? And then, of course, post COVID, everyone's concerned still with just hygiene, or am I going to have to shake hands with a stranger? So there's a lot more access and different expectations that people that are in the search for a heating and cooling system have when that person shows up to their home, or even wanting to have information before they get there.
Sure. And there's an age-old adage that, business kind of gets done at the kitchen table, but families also used to sit at the kitchen table and actually have dinner, and that's, where a lot of conversation did take place. How has that shifted?
So we find that the consumers are typically researching before people get there. I do think one thing that has not changed is the 11th commandment, and that is thou shalt get 3 bids. So there are people that are still shopping, but it doesn't have to be that way. I think that is what that's the expectation. And sometimes that's the expectation in the comfort advisor or that contractor when they're going into the home. Some of them don't even have the expectation that they can actually lock down the sale right then.
Mhm.
So they just assume that that someone's going to shop around, when if we do things a little bit differently, we can actually lock that sale down. If we communicate, if we ask the right questions and we do things differently, we can lock that sale down right then without having to be, well, call me back after you get the other bids. So it definitely has changed.
So what are some of the things that you're seeing where the contractors that you're working with are having a lot of success?
So one of the things that is different is that they are showing up. They're sending information ahead of time. So they send there's software out there that's accessible
Mhm.
where they can see a picture of the technician or the comfort advisor that's going to come to their home. Maybe it has some fun facts about them, that they have 2 dogs and 3 kids and they love to play pickleball on the
Mhm.
weekends. So there are technology services available out there that let that homeowner, that consumer, that prospect know a little bit more about them before they arrive, rather than just someone's coming at some time. So being able to connect and to start to build that rapport early and ahead of time, that's one of the different things that I'm seeing successful contractors do, is to take that extra step so that you know who's coming to the door, what their name is, a little bit about them, so that you've got connection right from the start.
So that really, the first step that you kind of teach is building trust. And so that's really starting to build that trust. How do you continue to build that trust throughout the whole entire process, the whole entire call?
I think probably the biggest thing that is a huge challenge for a lot of people that are in the home selling at the kitchen table, as you mentioned, is that they feel that they've got to have all the knowledge in the world and that they are there to present the answers and they've got to explain how the system works. And one of my favorite sayings is, you are not paid by the word, you're not paid by the answer, you're paid by the question.
Hmm.
So by showing up and building that rapport, by asking good questions throughout the process, instead of jumping into presenting too quickly, will make them successful. And I think another big thing is that I find that a lot of people like to talk tech in this world. And so they want to talk about capacitors and the condensers and the heat pump, when most homeowners just know that there's a little box on the wall and they push the button up if they want it to be warmer and they push the button down if they want it to be colder. So we need to be asking questions that will actually relate to comfort in the home, that are important to that homeowner, as opposed to talking tech.
And so that kind of leads into the next step in the process, is the assessment phase, and that list of good questions that you need to ask. And there's really 2 things that you're looking to assess, right? What are those 2 things that you're looking to assess as you're out there as a comfort advisor?
The easy one is the technical side.
Okay.
So everyone loves that part, because we got to figure out what's wrong, or we got to figure out, is the whole thing broken, or can we just replace a part,
Mhm.
or can we just replace one component of the system? So there's the technical assessment, but there's also the lifestyle assessment. And that's what a lot of people miss, is that they forget to ask those lifestyle questions. They are so busy doing kind of some old school rapport building, where they're looking at the big fish on the wall or a picture of someone golfing. And so they're connecting in the same way that the last 2 or 3 comfort advisors said. They're like, oh, I see you're a big fisher person. Well, everybody else said that when they walked in the home too.
Mhm.
So by asking comfort questions and looking for cues, that why are there blackout shades on a certain, window in a certain room? It's 80 degrees outside. Why is grandma wrapped up in a blanket, upstairs? And gosh, there's 87 cats. So is dander, is dust, is filtration an issue? So they forget to look for those clues and really look about lifestyle, again, driving them to comfort, because people will spend money on the things that will make them comfortable. It is not about how big the capacitor is, or or how pretty the condenser is, or how much tonnage. It's about comfort.
So we built trust. We asked some great questions, and we get to understand a little bit about the system, the current system, and we get to understand a little bit about their lifestyle and how they live in their home. The next thing that we really need to do is we need to start presenting, and so we're going to present on the brands that we offer, and we're going to present on our company.
Yes.
Why is our company the right company to do business with, and what is a consumer looking for today? I would think most consumers are thinking every company is going to do it, at least perform to a certain level. So what are the
Sure.
things that stands out today that people should really be looking at and talking about?
So you're absolutely right, and what you're talking about is part of a tapped process,
Mhm.
and tapped into success, which is what we teach our contractors and our dealers and comfort advisors and selling techs, building that trust, doing the analysis of the lifestyle and the technical, the system, and then presenting the brand and why we've chosen the brand. So unlike days of yesteryear when maybe people were brand loyal. They're open to different brands now, but they want to know why. So the biggest thing that we have to do is present that information and why they have chosen to use a Daikin, an Amana, a Goodman system. What does that bring them that will deliver them comfort, will bring safety to them, will bring them peace of mind to know that it's taken care of. I'm based in Jacksonville, Florida, and the last thing you want to have happen is to have your AC go out in the middle of July.
Mhm.
So knowing that you've got those assured, the security of just knowing that it's going to be repaired, that it's going to be taken care of quickly, is very important. So super important with the brand, and then with them as the provider. So I think all of our listeners out there would know that it's not the equipment that fails. It was probably a bad install. So helping them understand, helping that homeowner know that the installation and having a qualified installation is so critical. So what's different today is that as we begin to share about the company, why you should choose AAA Heating and Cooling, they need to be sharing and answering that question, which means to you. So when we talk about warranties, when we talk about qualified, that our technicians are certified, which means to you that. And so explaining to them that it's not just a technical thing, but explaining it to them in words that they understand, that relate to their safety, their comfort, their peace of mind, and overall value. And again, people will spend more for things that have value to them than just some numbers on a page and some tonnage.
Well, and I think it's real important too. I love the fact that you tied back into the fact, what's in it for me. That's always the big thing that everybody's looking for, because I think so many people lead out with these broad, guarantees that they may have. Yeah, we have 100% satisfaction guarantee. So what? Who cares? What does that mean to me?
Right.
And so you got to kind of tie it back to them. What that means is if we install this system for you, and for whatever reason you're unhappy, we're going to come back out and do whatever it takes to make you happy. And you know what? If I can't make you happy, we'll come back out, take the whole entire system out, and give you all your money back. That's now a big deal rather than just 100% satisfaction guarantee. We have an installation workmanship guarantee. We guarantee our guys are going to be professional in your home. They're not going to smoke. They're not going to swear around your kids.
Mhm.
They're going to clean up after they're done. And you know what? If our guys do anything that you feel is unprofessional, I'll again come back out, do whatever it takes to make you happy, up to refunding you the whole entire cost of the system. And so these types of things start to be a big deal when they're looking at it. And it starts to tie it away. The other guy was $500 less, but he didn't have this, this guarantee that's giving me this peace of mind that the system's going to be done right the first time. Because this is a large investment that people are making.
Yes.
I've heard it said the typical homeowner, depending on where you live, is going to buy 2 to 3 systems over the course of their life.
That's
And
very few. That less than their cars. That's
less
for
than
sure.
their cars. Some people less than the number of homes that they
Correct.
buy.
Correct.
And so you think about that, they buy 2 or 3 systems over the course of a lifetime, and they're typically in the market for no more than 2 or 3 days. So at most, people think about replacing system 9 days out of their whole entire life.
Wow. They spend more time on Facebook in a week than that. So true.
It's very interesting when you kind of think about it. People just really don't know. And so they are looking for somebody that's going to come out and going to spell it out and give them, start to build that peace of mind, build that relationship. So I've gone through, we built trust, we've assessed the system, and now we've presented why we're a great company to do business with, why our brand that we carry is a great brand for them to be able to use. The next thing is we have to engineer the system. Systems are not becoming simpler and simpler.
This is true. And especially for someone who's only spending 6 to 9 days of their entire life looking for one. They're
But-
not experts.
So there is some design work that needs to go into this. You have to look at the airflow. You have to look at the equipment sizing. You have to look at the registers even and where they're blowing air
Pressure,
into
sure.
different areas of the home and seeing what's happening there. You have to look at the equipment selection and look at your IAQ solutions that you're putting in. So these systems really have to be engineered and designed as they're putting it together. And so that's something, again, an education process.
Mhm.
We're sitting with the homeowner and saying, okay, we're going to engineer this system. I need you to help me figure out how's this going to work. And so how does that play with the psyche of the consumer, with those that actually sit down and help the consumer build their system for themselves?
Well, I think the most important thing is that it's so common. I see this a lot in working with different contractors and dealers, is that it's often really easy just to show up and say, okay, you got a 2-ton and it's this, and it's this brand and this sizing. And I call it the sticky note approach.
Mm.
You just write, here's what it's going to be to replace what you've got and put it on a sticky note and give them a price. And oftentimes they're shooting to be the low price leader and just replace what they have without really fixing the comfort issues and asking the right questions. So when you have a professional salesperson walk through the door and say, we are going to design this system to meet the comfort issues that you have, and you start asking the right questions, so that all of a sudden you learn, well, yeah, you know what? It's always, we host this holiday every year, and
Mhm.
it's always really, really hot in this room, but it's really, really freezing in the other dining room, and we can never keep everyone happy. So when we start asking those questions, we get down to those comfort questions where we begin to look at, you know what? We need to put another register here, or we've got filtration issues,
Mhm.
or we're not measuring the static pressure. It's just not good airflow.
Mhm.
So once we train people to ask the right questions, then that consumer begins to think, well, I got a sticky note from the first person. I got another sticky note from the second person, but this person is asking me questions that no one asked. And so when they are approached with a different professional solution, they see it in a different light. They're looking and they're feeling more confident in that provider and saying, you know what, they're going to provide us with the right solution. I mean, any one of us can go online right now and within 30 minutes we could buy a vehicle.
Mhm.
But if someone starts asking you questions about the vehicle, what do you need to transport? Do you need to put bicycles on it? Do you have pets? Do you need room for car seats? How many people in the family? When you start asking the right questions, you think, wow, I don't just need a transmission with 4 wheels attached to it. I need much more. And so by asking those right questions, that we're beginning to engineer the solution. Does it take a little more time? Of course. But what we found is that those contractors that take a little more time to get their techs and their comfort advisors to sit down and really engineer the solution that's the right solution, they're increasing their ticket values. They're actually providing comfort. They're then getting more referrals because someone says, we just thought we needed to replace it because it was broken and wasn't working, but now we've got this fantastic solution. So it takes them to another level.
It reminds me a lot. This is an old story. Supposedly it happened back in the 1940s. The Chrysler Corporation was looking at all of their different dealerships, and they noticed that there was this one dealership, it was down south somewhere, that was just, their numbers just did not make sense for the market population, everything else that they did. And so they decided, we're going to send the corporate spy down to go in and see, what is this salesperson doing that nobody else is doing?
The corporate spy, I can hear mwah, mwah, mwah in the background. I
And
love it.
so the corporate spy goes down, and he has this older vehicle, and he pulls up onto the lot, and the salesperson comes out and literally kicks the tires on the car and says, "Looks like you could use a new machine." And the corporate spy says, "Yeah, I'm in the market. We're looking for a new car." And he says, "Well, why don't you come on into the office with me?" And he pulls out the order form for a new vehicle. And he's like, "Well, this is interesting. I mean, we haven't even talked about vehicles or what I want." And he puts the order form in front of him, and he says, "Okay, I just need you to go ahead and put your name right up here on the top." And so he followed the directions, and he puts his name right up on the top of the order form. And then he says, "Okay, right here, I want you to pick out all of the features that you want here. Just mark a checkbox in the boxes that you have here. And then right here, I need you to go ahead and mark off the things that you want here." And they just went through the whole entire form. He filled out the whole entire form. And he said, "Okay, great. I just need you to go ahead and sign down at the bottom." And he signed, and he ended up walking away with the car. And he's like, "It can't be that simple." And so they went back to interview him afterwards. They said, "You're absolutely brilliant." And what they found out is he couldn't read or write.
Oh,
And so
wow.
he had the customer fill the form out because he was told this is how you get the orders done. But sometimes we overthink sales. Sales is that
Yes.
simple. Put the customer in control,
Yes.
and the customer will go and they will get what's best for them.
It's so true, and and I find that a lot. I almost find working with new salespeople that because they don't know the answer, so they can't talk about the widgets and the, how the thing. They can't tell
Mm.
you how to build the machine, and so all they know how to do is go, "That's a great question. Well, let me ask you something else. Is this important?" And they're full of questions. It's almost when they get too much product knowledge that they
Mhm.
start spilling product knowledge.
Right.
And then they're talking about this transition, to go back to your car analogy, the transmission and, these kind of windows and this kind of, they just start spilling all of the, if I can use the term vomit, they start
Mhm.
vomiting the technical side instead of asking the questions. There's a beautiful example of someone that just put the customer in control and just basically saying, "What is it that you want? Let's paint the picture. You engineer the solution. Tell me what's important to you, and we'll build the system that works for you. And then we're going to find the price that's right, that's going to fit within your budget."
Well,
And it's a no brainer at that point.
that leads us to the last step of your tapped process, right? That brings
Yeah.
us to decision time. And so we come to decision time, and at that particular time, really, it's all about making the system affordable.
And that is so critical. So I know that I hear it all. Again, I was sitting with some dealers recently and they're like, "Better pricing, pricing, pricing." Everyone's concerned with pricing. There are probably, for anyone who's listening out there, there are neighborhoods that you could ride through that have gorgeous homes that that have no furniture in them
Mm.
because they're mortgaged to the hilt. Or you can go through another neighborhood that doesn't have beautiful homes, but they've got gorgeous cars and
Mhm.
they have got all the bells and whistles. So my favorite phrase is, "Don't shop with other people's wallets." So we make that assumption that because it's in a certain zip code or in a certain neighborhood, or we drive up and we say, "Oh, the grass isn't cut and, there's old toys laying around. It just doesn't look really good. These people probably can't afford it." You would be surprised. Don't shop with their wallet. Ask them the right questions because people will pay for comfort. And we are in a beautiful industry of heating and cooling where that is one of the most critical things. We might be able to live with an older phone. We might not have the coolest stereo, but we definitely want to be comfortable. So when we ask those right questions, people will find the payment plan that will work for them to have comfort.
Interesting. Going back to the cars again, I remember when I first started looking at cars and started driving, the only financing option that was available was a 36-month loan. And that was for an automobile, that was for a car. And that was the only option that you had. There weren't a whole lot of other options.
Not these days.
And now you look at it today, I mean, you very, very rarely hear the 36-month option anymore. Now they're
Yeah.
they're leading with the 48 or the 60 or even a 7-year, I
Mhm.
think even some 10-year options that
Mhm.
are out there, because it is all about the affordability
Yep.
and making sure that it fits within somebody's budget. And I think that's the big key to understanding, here's the system that you said you wanted. Now
Yep.
let's figure out how we can fit this into your budget.
Yep.
And and it's up to the customer. The customer is driving the whole entire process and
Yes.
flow. It's not about, to your point, us going in there and assuming or making judgments or, trying to guess what it is the customer wants.
And people are so used to that. And especially we know that millennials are buying homes like crazy right now. And so with the younger generations, they're used to subscription and monthly payments. So they've got their favorite
Mm.
television show provider. They've got their phones that they're having a provider. They've got just certain services, their gym membership, whatever it is, they're used to that monthly model. And so, because of that, we can easily fit that in and not put our own preconceived notions on them and worry about the bottom line. We need to ask the right questions, get in front of them, have them tell us and design that
Hmm.
system. And then we just work out the financing. You move the pieces of the puzzle around, whether it's months or interest rate or whatever it is that will make that payment affordable so that they can have the comfort that they want.
The interesting thing, almost every big ticket industry I can think of, they lead with financing.
Yes.
Our industry is one of the few industries out there, and we are a big ticket item. We're probably the third largest purchase that somebody's going to
Mm.
make, besides their home and their car. You take a look at the HVAC system, third largest purchase that somebody's going to make, and we wait for the customer to say, "Do you have financing available?" How hard is that for a consumer to ask that question?
Yeah. And you know what we get at the end of the call? Well, thank you for my sticky note. We'll let you know
Hmm.
because we didn't offer it. And so, and I've again just in recently talking with some contractors, they say, well, most of my people they don't want financing. I said, are they giving you a credit card? Well, yeah. Well, they're financing it. They're just financing it through a credit card
Right.
and paying a different interest rate when we could be getting the benefit of that. So, by not offering that on every single sale, contractors are missing out because they can give people what they really want, which increases the average ticket price because they can add those IAQ, the indoor air quality features. They can add more bells and whistles when they know it's only going to be a few more dollars a month. So we can do a lot of magic through financing and offering that on every single sale.
Jan, this has been really a lot of fun to just sit here and talk about sales process with you. If you had any, words of wisdom that you wanted to share with all of the comfort advisors and selling technicians out there, what would those words of wisdom be that you'd want to share?
Oh, words of wisdom, the big question. I'll go back to what I said earlier. You're paid by the question, not the answer. So remember to ask good questions, to be prepared. Don't talk too much tech, but ask, be observant, and just say, I notice you've got a lot of pets. I notice you've got a really big gym in your home. Everybody works out in the family. How does the temperature in that particular room differ from the rest of the house? So asking the right questions, that customer will tell you how to design that system. And then just like your car dealer, you just turn around and you say, here's what you said you wanted, and here's the monthly payment that you said you could afford, and sign here. I wish it was that easy, but it can be.
Jan,
Thank you.
thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate you being here. And for all of you out there, if you enjoyed this episode, please go ahead and like it. Also, make sure that you follow us here on YouTube so you can be informed of all of the latest episodes coming out.
Thank you. This was great.
Thank
Appreciate it.
you.